Let me do a quick survey. Let's be honest here. How many of you are Minecrafters? Minecraft gamers. Okay, we got a few in the house. Okay, we got a few Minecraft people. And so I saw this series of videos, and I'm not a Minecraft guy. I don't really play too much. But my brother, he's Micah. You remember he was here last week, 2 weeks, whatever it was. And him and Josh, they play a little bit more Minecraft than me. But anyways, the game was called Minecraft Noob versus Pro versus Hacker. And what would happen is they would have one goal. They would say house. And so then they would show the noob's house. And it would be, kind of lame. It'd have a few rooms. It'd have some windows. But it wouldn't be that good. Then they showed the pro. And the pro was a little bit better. It had all sorts of rooms. It was kind of nice. And then after that, they showed the hacker guy. And the hacker guy had spent way too long. I mean, he's got this whole entire mansion in Minecraft that he's put all sorts of time and thought into. He's got all the torches put in such nice places so it's all well lit. And there's hallways and it's just really, really beautiful. And it's amazing to see what these people will make in Minecraft. They'll really do a lot of crazy, crazy stuff. I mean, I've seen they'll do yachts, they do houses in the sky. I mean, it's just crazy what people will do. And it got me thinking, if we had the ability to dream up whatever we wanted in Minecraft, what would we make? If I had to make up somewhere and say, look, this is where I'm going to live, this is going to be my place, this is going to be where I'm going to be, what would we dream out? What would we think about? And I thought that, maybe we'd have all the swimming pool would be really cool with the waterfall, and maybe you'd have a place for horses, maybe you have a bowling alley. I don't know, what are some other things that you would put in your magic house? If you had to build somewhere where you had to live forever, money isn't an object, you can get whatever you want in there. What's some other things you would put in there? I'll hear some suggestions.
You definitely talk about this for a camera.
Yeah.
A big chandelier.
A big chandelier? Hey, why not? That'd be kind of cool, yeah. Something to keep you non-stop building. Okay, so you can keep building.
A library that replenishes itself.
A library? That'd be really cool, a huge library. That'd definitely be part of my mansion. Yeah. Did you have something, Jess?
Yeah. A sports arena.
Sports arena? Hey, that'd be pretty cool. If you wanted to play whatever Seth would be in your...
Have you ever seen Tanked?
No, I haven't.
They build these crazy cool fish tanks. I would get one of those.
A super cool fish tank? Okay, that'd be cool, right? Anybody else, something that you've always wanted to put in a big mansion, a fish tank, that has Bond villain stuff. They always have super cool fish tanks of really dangerous fish. That'd be cool, yeah.
My favorite food.
Favorite food? Hey, yeah, why not? You put a buffet down there, your favorite food. Okay, Jason's over here, let's see.
Raising Cane's.
A Raising Cane's. Would anybody put a Raising Cane's in their house? Who would put a Chick-fil-A instead of a Raising Cane's?
I put Taco Bell.
A Taco Bell? Oh my goodness. There's all sorts of crazy things we would put in there, right? Oh goodness. There's just so many things you can think about. But I started thinking about, I said, if God were to make somewhere for him to dwell eternally, what would he make? What would it be like? What do you think it would be like? Well, it would actually be a place called heaven. It would really be, it's actually a real place where God, he can put everything he wants to, and he does it. And that's what we're going to look at tonight, Revelation 21 and 22. So tonight is kind of a little bit different. We've been walking through the beginning, Genesis 1, Genesis 2, Genesis 3. And we've really seen what creation looks like. And then now tonight, we're going to go to the very, very end. So we're going to try and get as much as we can out of what does the Bible teach us about heaven. Just because in a lot of ways you're going to hear a lot of the same kind of tunes going on here in Revelation 21 that you heard in Genesis 1 and 2. There's a few different themes, a few different similarities that are really important for us to see. So Revelation chapter 21 is where I'm going to start. I'm going to read the first 8 verses of Revelation 21. And we'll just kind of dive into what we see about the new heavens and the new earth, and how God makes all things new. Okay, when we start with the book of Revelation, is anybody, you hear about that book and you just get scared? Is anybody fear comes to mind when you think of Revelation? A little bit? Anybody? You're oh, there's like all these like crazy things that happen. There's Antichrist, and there's this great prophet, and there's all sorts of scary stuff. Yeah, okay, there's some bad things that happen in Revelation, but ultimately they're defeated by a really good thing that happens, and that is God's victory in the new creation that you see in Revelation 21. So, if you have your Bibles, Revelation 21, verse 8, verse 1 through 8. This is what John writes. He said, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away.' And he who was seated on the throne said, 'Behold, I am making all things new.' Also he said, 'Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true.' And he said to me, 'It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death." So we see this new picture. Here we are at the new creation. And just to kind of give us a little bit of a backdrop to where we are in Revelation chapter 19, we have the return of Jesus Christ. Return of Jesus, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing or like neutral thing? Which one? Good, right? So Jesus is coming back, and how is his coming back different than his first coming? So he first came as a baby. Whenever he comes the second time, what do you know about his coming back? What's he coming to do? Coming through the clouds? Absolutely. Coming through the clouds to do? Yeah, absolutely. To bring all the believers to heaven. What's he going to have to do with his enemies? He's going to have to fight them, right? He's going to have to knock them out so that he can do that, and he's going to come through the clouds to do it. Really good. So this is what happens is Jesus comes, Revelation 19, he's riding on a white horse, knocks out the Antichrist, all of his people, they're done. Binds Satan. Satan is captured for 1,000 years. He can't deceive the nations anymore. Jesus rules on the earth 1,000 years with the believers. After that 1,000 years of great reign of peace, of prosperity, really awesome time to be alive, Satan is released once again. So Satan, he goes, he does his thing, he tries to deceive the nations, he does. Some of them, they rise up against Jesus. And what do you think happens when people try to fight Jesus? They die and they lose, right? And that's what happens. And then after that, there's the judgment, the great white throne judgment, where all of us, we give an account for our lives. And depending on if, our name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, it depends on, where our eternity will be sealed. And so that's already happened. Jesus has knocked out all of the evil people. They've all, been sentenced to a real place called hell. And this is the picture of the other side of heaven, the new creation here in Revelation 21. This is what we call the new heaven and the new earth. So it's a renewed space. The old earth, old heaven have passed away. So whatever it means by passed away, I don't think that God is just blowing up the whole entire earth. So it says new heavens and a new earth. I don't think that God is, completely starting fresh. What's happening is God is actually renewing. He's doing this special work on the earth so it's transformed. The world right now is messed up. It's under the corruption of sin. And God renews it. He makes it right so that all of a sudden it's beautiful and it's really new. He says new heavens and new earths. So when we're thinking of heaven in this context, we're not thinking heaven as the dwelling place of God necessarily, like up in the sky. We're thinking heaven as the whole entire universe. So the whole entire universe is going to be renewed. It's going to be transformed. It's going to be cleaned and purified. And John just says, it's new, it's clean, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And that's what it is. This is this new place for us to come to. He says the sea is no more, there in verse 1. Now that's another kind of interesting thing. If you're just reading it straight, there are a few people who would say, okay, that means that there's no more like oceans on the earth. That's possible. I probably think, since this is apocalyptic literature, sometimes some of those symbols can mean something. I think probably what he's doing is he's saying, since the sea is a picture of chaos and confusion and evil in the Hebrew literature and in the book of Revelation, you see beasts coming up from the sea. In Daniel, you see that in Revelation. I think he's really probably saying that there's no more evil, no more chaos, no more confusion. Not necessarily that there's no bodies of water, but I could be wrong there. So we keep that idea. So the world is looking a little bit different than how we typically think of the earth. So when we think about the earth and when you think about heaven, what do you think most people think of? If you just had to describe heaven, what would somebody say? Well, a lot of times you would say, we're up in the clouds, right? We're like playing those harps with the baby angels, and we have wings, and we're doing all that kind of stuff. Has anybody else seen that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been to your grandma's house, and she has all of those like old pictures of the old angels and stuff. They're like babies. They have harps, and they're like kind of creepy. But you don't want to tell your grandma because that's hard. Has anybody ever seen something like that, or is it just okay? Good.
If you've been to Heaven Sent, they were all over there.
Do they have that too?
Oh, it's weird. You walk into the donut shop and there's just angels. Angel babies.
Yeah. Right, so that can sometimes be our picture of heaven, right? We're like up in the clouds, but what is this saying? We're going to be actually on the earth. So that's really one thing that's kind of different that we can actually think about in the world. So the world is going to look different, but look how life is going to be different. Look at verse number 4. Verse number 4, the whole earth and our experience of life is going to be different. It says, he, being Jesus, God, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. So we're still alive on the earth, but our experience is very different. We know our world is filled with heartbreak and pain and tears and hardship and trouble. But he says it's not going to be like that in heaven. Like in this new creation, we don't have that experience. It's not pain. It's not hurt. It's not heartache. It's new. It's a life to the fullest. It's a life of joy. It's a life that's good. It's really how life was intended for us to be. It's the life that we should have experienced this whole time, but we had this fall. We went our own way. Now sin has caused all sorts of issues, said that death will be no more. And death's a hard one for us. I mean, I would imagine almost every single one of us have lost a loved one in our lives. If it's a grandparent or a friend or an uncle or an aunt. And it's really hard when you walk through that time because death isn't really supposed to be natural. God didn't really make us so that we would die originally. Adam and Eve wouldn't have died. And so we miss somebody. And it's hard to move on. And it's painful and it's sad. But in the new heavens and the earth, there's no death. Because we get to live how God really intended us to. And so all of a sudden that pain can be taken away and we can really experience life how God wanted it to be. So in this world, we know that there's going to be pain. It's going to hurt. There's going to be days where it's just hard to follow up and follow and to obey God. But we know that God is with us. Psalm 56:8. So how do we know that God can wipe away every tear, every pain from us? This is what David writes. You have kept count of my tossings and put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? So why can God wipe away every tear and heal all of our pain and our hurt? It's because he really knows what we're going through. Like he really knows every hurt and every struggle and every sad moment that you're going through. That God knows that he cares about it. And he's remembering all these things so that one day in glory, in heaven, that he can set you free from it. And he can really let you live life to how it's supposed to be without sin. So that's our hope, is that we know it's kind of hard sometimes here on earth. And there's real pain, there's real hurt. And some of you maybe feel like, I'm lonely. Or nobody likes me. Or you can feel pain, you can feel sadness, and you can feel depression, all these sorts of things. But we know it's temporary, it's real, it's hard, it hurts. But that's not part of God's design. That's because of what sin has done in our hearts. And we know that God will keep his promise. God will keep his promise to make everything new. That's what he says. I will make all things new, and I can wipe away every tear, every pain, every hurt. It will be made right. That's what life is really supposed to be for us, supposed to be with us. And even now, thankfully, we can experience the joy of life. So yes, there's this hurt. Yes, there's this pain. That's part of life, but you can still experience joy. Even now, Jesus would say, I have come that so that you can have life and have it more. What does he say next? Have more abundantly, right? Jesus says that even now in this earth that's plagued by pain, by sin, by death, by hurt, by depression, by mental illness, by all these kinds of things, you can still have joy and you can have life even now because he's giving us a glimpse of the age that is to come, a glimpse of what heaven is going to be like, and that's going to be a really good day for us. So maybe today you're like in a season and you're just kind of feeling like, you know what, I really don't really feel a lot of pain right now. I kind of feel like life's going pretty well. That's a good thing, right? That could be a good thing. Honestly, like right now, I think right now is a great time of joy for me and Melanie right now. We're excited about what God's doing in our hearts, in our marriage, in our family. And man, it's just exciting. But I know, the joy that I have now in life is going to be eclipsed by what's to come. So our life is going to be so different in the new heavens and the new earth. And then we get a depiction of what the city is going to be like. So this is a picture of New Jerusalem. You see that in verses 9 through 27 of chapter 21. So the New Jerusalem, this is the capital city of heaven. This is where the people are. This is where it's going to be really, really, it's all going to come together. And John, he just looks at this. And have you ever had a vision, or you've seen something and you're like, wow, that's amazing. I don't know, maybe you've seen like a sunset that's really cool. Or you've seen the ocean for the first time. You think, that's really, really neat. I think John saw this and he really couldn't picture it. Because he saw this city of gold and of like every single kind of special stone that you can think of. Let's look at some of the ones that he says that he sees. It has a rare jewel, verse 11, like jasper, as clear as crystals. What are some other ones? If you're going down to verse 19, jasper, sapphire, agate, emerald, onyx, carnelian. I don't even know how to say all these. Crystolite, or chrysolite. Maybe it is like crystolite. I don't know. Beryl, topaz, chrysoprase, jacinth, amethyst. I don't even know what all those look like, but I know that they're going to be pretty. There's pearls. And the city was of pure gold, like transparent glass. I've never seen gold quite like glass before. But he said that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be this cube, actually, and he gives us the dimensions of it. It's going to be 1,500 miles in length by 1,500 miles in width. So if you were to take that and put it down, it's like a square. You would kind of draw a square from like Canada all the way down to Mexico, to the Gulf of Mexico. And it's about from like Colorado to the Atlantic Ocean, if you know about how that far is. So that's how big is this city that he's describing. It's 12,000, he uses some weird unit. It's like stadia, 12,000 stadia. So that's what he says. It has 3 gates on each side, so 12 total gates. Each gate has a name of the apostle, but then this is where it really gets crazy. He says it's 12,000 stadia, 1,500 miles, length, width, but then also height. So 1,500 miles tall is how high he says. Now, if you look at what we consider to be outer space, do you know what that line is? The line to be considered in outer space. How many miles up do you think you have to be? 1,000 miles up? Anybody else have a guess?
3.5.
3.5 miles up. So the answer we're looking for is 62. So about 62 miles is about how high it takes to get to outer space. And so, but John is saying this thing is going to be like 1,500 miles tall. So you're like, the city is actually like going into quite literally outer space. I mean, it's big. I mean, this is a really big spot, and it's in a perfect cube. Length, width, height, it's all kind of the same. It's mimicking the Holy of Holies. That was a perfect cube there in the temple, but now it's in this new place. So it's this New Jerusalem is a really, really cool place where it's going. Read with me in verse number 22. Let's pick up and read a little bit more about it. Mind-blowingly beautiful, mind-blowingly tall. We can't imagine how many stories it's going to be if it's 1,500 miles tall. This is what it says. And I saw no temple in the city, for its temple was the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb. So the temple, of course, has to dwell in the place of God. In the Garden of Eden, was there a temple? No. Why? Because they didn't need it. See, the temple was a result because of sin. We couldn't enter into God's presence, but when there was no sin, we could walk with God. We could have communion with God, and it was just unobstructed. Adam and Eve had a great relationship. That's what it's like in heaven, too. We don't need a temple because God fills the whole space. We're always with Him in a special way. Verse 23. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives its light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light will the nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. And its gates will never be shut by day, and there will not be night there. They will bring into it the glory and the honor of the nations. So is there a need for the sun? No, there's not, because who's shining and who's providing all of its light? God. Is there any night? No. Why? Because God's light doesn't stop. Are there any night owls here? Like people who really like to stay up at night? Are you bummed to hear that there's not going to be night in heaven? Does that disappoint you at all? A little bit? Well, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. So God's always going to be shining. It's always going to be bright. There's never going to be any time where it gets dark because it's just always going to be good. And you think about it, too. The picture of darkness and light. Light is always, in John's theology, with the Lord walking in the good. Darkness is bad. So there's no evil, again, with it. So we don't see that anymore. No darkness. And then, again, we're starting to hear a lot of those echoes back from Genesis 2 come. Let's read a little bit more. Chapter 22, it has 5 more verses on what else we see. So this is the new heavens and the new earth. The capital city is the New Jerusalem. And in the capital city of the New Jerusalem, you have the new river of life and the tree of life. This is what it says. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also on either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be anything accursed, but the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it. And his servants will worship him, and they will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. And night will be no more, and they will need no light of lamp or sun, for the Lord will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever. So, in the middle of the city, you have a river of life. Where else had a river running straight through the middle of it?
Eden.
Yeah, Eden. Nice job. Yeah, the Garden of Eden has a river running right through it. And then right in the middle of the capital city here, it's this river of life. Now, how many of you have ever been to the Mississippi River? Have any of you been to the banks of the Mississippi River and looked in? How would you describe the water of the Mississippi River? What does it look like? Muddy?
It's gross.
Chocolate?
Lost sandbars.
What does that mean?
Sandbars?
Sandbars. Oh, I thought you said like... I heard something... I thought you said something, honestly, in Spanish, because you said like Las. I'm thinking like Las... Lots of sandbars. Yes, there certainly are lots of sandbars in Mississippi. Right, so the Mississippi, it's muddy, it has lots of sandbars. Anybody else, like... It's probably dirty, let's be honest. There's probably like all sorts of diseases and stuff in it. But this river, crystal clear. Nice water, beautiful water. And of course, water brings life. If you don't have water, you're not going to live. So again, water's here. It's really important. It's nourishing. It's a sign of life. But you don't just see the river of life. What else do you see? You see the tree of life. Where else have you seen the tree of life? Eden, right? And what would happen if Adam and Eve ate of the tree of life was they'd live forever. This says that it healed the nations. I think the picture there probably is more, it's nourishing everyone who's there. So we're eating of its leaves, we're eating its fruit. It has 12 different fruits in its season. And we're enjoying this new life in God's city, being sustained by the water, being sustained by the fruit from it. And so that's kind of what we're seeing as a picture of heaven. It's a picture of what we do. It says we're going to worship God there. That we're going to see his face. So what do? Well, there is going to be a sense where we talk to one another. You're going to have relationships with people who have come way before you. Like if you wanted to meet Abraham Lincoln, and if he was a believer, then you'd meet him in heaven. Or if there's anybody else in the Bible, you can meet them. You can have a conversation. You can ask them stuff. That's going to be part of it. But it's also going to be worshiping Jesus. Having this opportunity to dwell with God in a way that's unlike how we can do it on earth. I mean, you're going to have a closer sense of connection, a closer sense of knowledge, a greater sense of love and affection for the Lord. And that's really one of the joys of heaven, that we can know God. That, yeah, it's beautiful, and that's great, and that's wonderful, and it's going to be huge, and it's going to be strong, but God's going to be there. And we know how good God is, and we know that when we know God and we become more like Him, that's when our life is at its best. And so that's the picture of heaven that we see, a life where we spend worshiping and praising and adoring God. This beautiful place that God's prepared for us, a beautiful river, a beautiful city, so that God's people could dwell with Him forever. But it's not a place for everyone. Look at what it says in verse 21, or chapter 21, verse number 8. It's not a place for everyone. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Verse 27. But nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anybody who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So heaven is a place for people who have been cleansed, who've been cleaned, who've been forgiven, who've been made right with God. And God can't let people who are guilty walk into this perfect place. God's dealt with evil. He's knocked evil out. Evil needed to meet its end. And that's what He does. And it really, a lot of times we think, like, how in the world could God send people to hell? And it's a hard question to think how a loving God could do that. But we have to remember that's really not the hard thing to get through. The hard thing to get through is, how could God let people who are guilty, people who have rebelled against Him, into heaven? How could God really let us do that? I mean, that's really the more amazing thing. Not that God would punish sin, but that through Jesus we could really have forgiveness. He said the way you do that is through your name being in the Lamb's book of life. He said when you believe and you call out and you trust in Jesus, then you're forgiven, that you've been cleansed, you've been made new. And then you can enter into God's kingdom. That your name is in the family, that your name is on the guest book, that you're expected and you can be there. And that's why it's so important for us to tell people this news, that Jesus offers a way of salvation, that in Him there's salvation that no other name can offer, that heaven's real, that hell is real, and that we want to see people cross from death to life, from a punishment to the enjoyment and the beauty of God's kingdom. We want to be able to tell people this good news, that God's made a way for us, people who are all of us guilty, who have all messed up, who all deserve to be sentenced, that God's made a way for us to enter into life. That's the good news for us. And for us as believers, we can press on and press through even when it's hard here, because we know our pain, our suffering, it will one day be righted. It will one day be fixed, and God will make all things good and all things right. So we can press on, we can continue to faithfully follow Jesus, because He's the way, He's the truth, He's the life. And He's the only way to heaven. And this heaven that's coming is so much greater than anything else in life than we could ever imagine. So if you don't know Jesus, if you don't really know that my name is written in the Lamb's book of life, you can know tonight when you call out to Jesus, believing in Him, trusting in Him. We'd love to talk to you about what that could look like, and so that you can know what your eternal future looks like. Let's pray. God, we do thank You for this hope we have, a living hope that we can have new life in You, that we are promised this new way. God, we thank You that even though all of us deserve to meet the punishment for our sin, that You took on the punishment Yourself on the cross, and that in You we can have new life and we can have it eternally. God, help us to live faithfully and to keep our minds set and our eyes focused on heaven. Help us to declare this good news, that the lost can be found, that the dead can be raised, and then that the guilty can be made innocent through Your Son. And God, we thank You for this place that You've pictured for us, You've created for us, and for the work that You've done to bring us back into relationship with You. Help us be good witnesses and good models of it. In Your name I pray. Amen.